The silent arrival. The stars had never seemed so cold as they did from the bridge of the eternal conquest. Admiral Kextar pressed his scaled hands against the command console, watching as 15 of the galaxy's most powerful warships moved into formation. The annual Iron Dominance War Games had drawn spectators from across the known systems, their viewing platforms glittering like distant jewels against the darkness of space. "All vessels report ready status," announced Communications Officer Zelnath, her forearms dancing across multiple control surfaces. The Zephyrian Admiral's crest flared with satisfaction as each ship confirmed their position. This was more than a military exercise. This was a display of power that would remind every world in the galaxy why the Galactic Defense Coalition remained unchallenged. The fleet was magnificent, 15 ships representing 6 different species, each vessel a masterpiece of military engineering. The Salkarian dreadnought Mind's Edge gleamed silver in the artificial light, its captain Velthra known throughout the galaxy for her tactical brilliance. Beside it, the Vanguard heavy cruiser Iron Will bristled with weapon arrays, commanded by the legendary Hroth, whose battles against the Void Pirates had become the stuff of legend. "Begin Phase 1, Kextar commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had never known defeat. The war games commenced with precision that spoke of years of practice. Energy beams lanced between ships in carefully choreographed patterns, shields flared with controlled bursts, and maneuvering thrusters fired in perfect harmony. Across the galaxy, billions watched. Children pressed their faces to viewing screens while military academies broadcast the exercises to their students. This was the might of the Coalition on full display, a reminder that peace in the galaxy came at the price of eternal vigilance. The first sign something was wrong came from the sensor stations. Ensign Mortak, barely out of the academy, frowned at his readings. "Admiral," he called out hesitantly, "I'm detecting an anomaly in Sector 7. Kextar's attention shifted from the tactical display. "Elaborate." It's a ship, sir. Unknown configuration. It just appeared on our scopes without any fold space signature or hyperspace distortion." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Ships didn't just appear in space. The laws of physics demanded energy signatures, gravitational, waves, some form of detectable arrival pattern. Yet there it was on the main display, a sleek vessel unlike anything in the Coalition databases. "Size comparison?" Captain Velthra's voice crackled through the communications array from the Mind's Edge. "Approximately 400 meters in length," reported the sensor operator. "Single hull configuration, no visible weapon emplacements." "Commander." Hroth's gruff laugh echoed across the channel. "One ship? Against 15 Coalition vessels? Either they're insane or they have a death wish." The unknown vessel hung motionless in space, its hull a deep obsidian black that seemed to absorb the light around it. No running lights, no energy signatures, nothing to indicate it was even powered. It was as if someone had carved a ship-shaped hole in the fabric of space itself. "Open all channels," Kextar ordered. "Unknown vessel, you have entered restricted military coordinates during an active exercise. Identify yourself immediately or face the consequences." Silence stretched across the void. The war games had stopped, all 15 ships now focused on the intruder. Weapon systems that moments before had been firing controlled demonstration shots now swiveled toward a genuine target. "Sir?" Mortak's voice had risen an octave. "I'm not reading any life signs. The ship appears to be completely dead." "Maybe it's a derelict," suggested someone from the crew pit. Before Kextar could respond, the communications array crackled to life. The voice that emerged was calm, almost conversational, with an accent none of them recognized. "Apologies for the interruption. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel, Last Echo. We couldn't help but notice your light show and thought we'd stop by to watch." The bridge erupted in whispers. Earth, that was a name from the restricted archives, from the classified histories that spoke of a species banished from the galaxy over a century and a half ago. The humans had been exiled for their aggression, their refusal to accept Coalition authority, their dangerous tendency toward independent action. Impossible. Velthra's voice cut through the chatter. The humans were driven beyond the galactic rim generations ago. They couldn't have survived. Yet here I am, came the reply, tinged with what sounded like amusement. Don't mind us, please continue with your demonstration. We're quite curious to see what you consider military excellence these days. The insult hit every bridge simultaneously. Kextar's crest flared bright red, while growls and hisses echoed from the other vessels. This lone ship, this presumptuous human, dared to mock the most powerful fleet in known space. Unknown vessel. Kextar's voice had turned deadly cold. You will stand down and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. Overwhelming? The human captain's voice remained maddeningly calm. I suppose that depends on perspective. The silence that followed was pregnant with violence. Across 15 bridges, weapon officers awaited orders. The war games had become something else entirely, something that would be remembered not as an exercise but as the day the galaxy learned a terrible truth. All ships, Kextar's command cut through space like a blade. Target the intruder. Fire, at will. What happened next would be analyzed by military strategists for generations to come. 15 ships representing the pinnacle of galactic military might opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and kinetic projectiles converged on the small human vessel from every angle. None of them reached their target. The weapons simply stopped, their energy dissipating into nothingness as if absorbed by some invisible barrier. The plasma torpedoes winked out of existence, the kinetic rounds slowed to a halt and drifted harmlessly away. Interesting, came Captain Chen's voice. Is that the best you can manage? Before anyone could respond, the iron will went dark. Every light, every display, every system aboard Commander Hroth's flagship simply stopped working. The massive vessel hung dead in space, its weapon arrays silent, its engines cold. What just happened? Hroth's voice came through on backup communications powered by emergency batteries. I disabled your ship, Chen replied matter-of-factly. Don't worry, your crew is perfectly safe. Life support is functioning normally and your systems will reboot in about 6 hours. Consider it a demonstration. The Mind's Edge tried to maneuver away, Velthra's tactical genius immediately recognizing the threat they faced. Her ship made it exactly 47 meters before it too went dark. One by one, the ships of the Grand Fleet fell silent. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply switched off like lights in a room. The weapons that had been humanity's match over a century ago proved useless against technology that shouldn't exist. In less than 3 minutes, 8 of the galaxy's most powerful warships hung powerless in space. How? Kextar whispered, his voice barely audible. You want to know how? For the first time, Captain Chen's voice carried an edge. You exiled us to die in the void between galaxies. You stripped us of our colonies, our trade routes, our place. In civilization, you thought you were ridding yourselves of a problem. The last echo began to move, not with the chemical thrust or gravitational manipulation familiar to coalition technology, but with something else entirely. It flowed through space like a living thing, defying physics as the aliens understood them. Instead, you gave us exactly what we needed: isolation, desperation, the absolute necessity to evolve or perish. The ship drew closer to the eternal conquest, and for the first time, Kextar felt fear. 150 years of having nothing but each other and the determination to survive. 3 more ships went dark in rapid succession. Their crews reported the same thing. Systems shutting down with surgical precision, life support maintained, weapons and propulsion eliminated. Whatever the humans had become during their exile, they had evolved far beyond the species the Coalition remembered. Please. Velthra's voice crackled through emergency communications from her darkened ship. We can negotiate. There's no need for violence. Violence. Chen's laugh held no humor. Captain, if I wanted violence, your crews would be breathing vacuum right now. This isn't violence, this is a lesson. Only 4 ships remained operational, their crews watching in horror as their seemingly invincible fleet was methodically neutered by a single vessel. The war games that had begun as a display of coalition power had become a demonstration of how far that power had fallen behind. The question now, Captain Chen continued, her ship continuing its impossible dance through space, is whether you're ready to listen to what I came here to say. Admiral Kextar stared at the tactical display, watching as the last symbol of human civilization moved among the pride of the galaxy like a predator among prey. In the space of minutes, everything he thought he knew about the balance of power in the galaxy had been turned upside down. The humans hadn't just survived their exile. They had used it to become something unprecedented, something that made the Coalition's greatest achievements look like children's toys. And they had returned with a message that would shake the very foundations of galactic civilization. The revelation. The remaining 4 ships of the Grand Fleet formed a desperate, defensive formation, their commanders unified by the terrible understanding that they faced something beyond their comprehension. Admiral Kextar's hands trembled as he gripped his command console, watching the human vessel glide between his disabled ships like a shark among paralyzed fish. All remaining vessels, he broadcast on emergency frequencies. Coordinate targeting. Solutions. We strike as one on my mark. Commander Yexti of the Corvani destroyer Swift Retribution responded immediately. Admiral, my ship is ready. We'll make them pay for this humiliation. Captain Dolesh aboard the Thanari cruiser Crimson Tide was less confident. Sir, nothing we've thrown at them has worked. Maybe we should consider alternative approaches. The only alternative is surrender, snapped Captain Quindar from the Helian battleship Storm's Fury. I'd rather die fighting than bow to these exiled parasites. The last echo came to a halt, directly in the center of the disabled fleet, surrounded by the dark hulks of 8 powerless warships. Captain Chen's voice filled the communication channels, her tone shifting from amusement to something more serious. I can hear your planning, you know. Your ships are broadcasting on frequencies my vessel monitors automatically. You're about to make a terrible mistake. The only mistake, Kextar replied, his pride overriding his fear, was allowing your species to live long enough to become a threat. All ships fire everything you have. The coordination was perfect. 4 ships representing 4 different species and military traditions unleashed their full arsenal simultaneously. Energy weapons designed to crack planetary shields, torpedo, salvos capable of vaporizing asteroids, and particle beams that could slice through station hulls like paper. The display of firepower was magnificent and utterly futile. The weapons struck something invisible around the human ship and simply ceased to exist. Not absorbed, not deflected, but negated at a fundamental level. The last echo sat untouched in the center of what should have been a devastating barrage, its black hull unmarked by the assault. My turn, Captain Chen said softly. The 4 remaining ships died instantly. Not dramatically, not with explosions or system failures, but with the quiet finality of lights being switched off. Life support continued, emergency power maintained, communication systems, but everything else simply stopped working. In the span of 4 minutes, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy had been reduced to 15 floating monuments to obsolescence. Now that I have your attention, Chen's voice carried clearly through the emergency channels, let me tell you a story. It begins 153 years ago, when your coalition decided that humanity was too dangerous to coexist with. The civilized galaxy. Admiral Kextar slumped in his command chair, his crest dulled with defeat. Around him, his bridge crew sat in stunned silence, their instruments dark, their weapons useless. You remember the official records, of course. Humanity was aggressive, expansionist, unwilling to accept coalition authority. We refused to limit our military development, declined to accept population controls, and had the audacity to establish colonies without permission from the Galactic Council. The tactical display showed the human ship beginning to move again, but now it seemed less threatening and more like a teacher pacing before a classroom. So you gave us a choice. Submit completely to coalition oversight or face exile beyond the galactic rim. When we chose exile, you probably thought you'd solved your human problem permanently. Captain Velthra's voice crackled through the communications array from her darkened ship. The records show humanity had 12 colony worlds and a population of 8 billion. Even with advanced technology, survival beyond the rim should have been impossible. Should have been, Chen agreed. The void between galaxies is cold, empty, hostile to life. No resources, no habitable worlds, no possibility of sustaining a technological civilization. You were right to think it was a death sentence. The last. Echo passed close to the Eternal Conquest, and through the viewports, Kextar could see the alien vessel's hull more clearly. It wasn't just black, it seemed to bend light around itself, creating optical distortions that hurt to look at directly. For the first 50 years, you were almost right. We lost 6 of our 12 colonies. Populations died from resource shortages, equipment failures, the simple impossibility of maintaining industrial civilization in the cosmic void. Our numbers dropped from 8 billion to less than 1 billion. The human captain's voice carried pain, but also something else, pride perhaps, or the satisfaction of proving the impossible possible. But humans are remarkably good at adapting to hostile environments. It's what we do. It's what we've always done. When faced with extinction, we don't lie down and die. We evolve. Commander Hroth's voice joined the conversation from his disabled flagship. Even if you survived, how did you advance so far? Our technology hasn't progressed this dramatically in centuries. Because you haven't had to, Chen replied. Your coalition controls hundreds of worlds, thousands of star systems, trillions of citizens. You have resources, comfort, stability. Why push the boundaries when you already have everything you need? The truth of it hit every listener simultaneously. The coalition's strength had become its weakness, its success the foundation of its stagnation. We had none of those luxuries. Every day was a fight for survival, every resource precious beyond measure. When your industrial base fits on 6 worlds and your population is a fraction of what it once was, you can't afford inefficiency. You can't accept limitations. You have to find better ways of doing everything. The last echo began broadcasting, holographic displays that appeared on every ship's emergency screens. Images of human colonies unlike anything the coalition had ever imagined. Cities that seemed to be grown rather than built. Technology that bent reality itself. Ships that moved through space without leaving energy signatures. 150 years of enforced innovation, Chen continued. No trade partners to depend on, no established supply chains, no luxury of following traditional approaches. We had to rethink everything. Energy generation, material science, space travel, even the basic laws of physics. Captain Dolesh stared at the images in disbelief. This technology, it shouldn't be possible. Matter conversion at this scale, energy manipulation without waste heat, propulsion systems that ignore momentum conservation. Impossible by your understanding of physics, Chen corrected. But the universe is far more flexible than your scientists believe. When survival depends on transcending limitations, you find ways to transcend them. The display shifted to show human populations, no longer the 8 billion of the exile, but something far smaller and fundamentally different. These weren't the humans the coalition remembered. These beings seemed to interface directly with their technology, their cities flowing around them like living things. We're not the same species you exiled, Chen admitted. Evolution isn't just biological. When your entire civilization is focused on a single goal for over a century, change becomes inevitable. We've become something new. Admiral Kextar found his voice. What do you want from us? The question hung in space for a long moment. When Captain Chen replied, her tone had shifted again, becoming almost gentle. Recognition. The coalition made a decision based on fear, and that decision created something you fear even more. You can't undo the past, but you can choose how to face the present. The holographic displays changed once more, showing star charts with human colonies marked in systems the coalition had written off as uninhabitable or impossible to reach. We've established ourselves in 17 star systems beyond your borders. We're not interested in conquest or revenge. We've learned to thrive in places you can't even survive. But we're also not interested in hiding anymore. The implications, crashed over every commander simultaneously. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had built a new civilization in the cosmic void, a civilization that operated by rules the Coalition couldn't understand or match. The galaxy is about to change, Chen announced. Trade routes that were considered impossible will open. Technologies that your scientists claim are fantasy will become commonplace. The balance of power you've maintained for centuries is about to shift. She paused, letting the weight of her words settle over the disabled fleet. You have a choice to make. You can accept that humanity has returned as an equal partner in galactic civilization, or you can try to maintain the old order through force. I think today's demonstration should make clear how that second option would end. The communications channels fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. 15 of the galaxy's most powerful warships hung powerless around a single, human vessel, their crews grappling with a new reality none of them had prepared for. Your systems will come back online in 6 hours, Captain Chen announced. Use that time to consider what you'll tell your superiors. The Coalition's age of unchallenged dominance is over. What comes next depends on how wisely you choose to adapt. The last echo began to move away from the disabled fleet. It's impossible. Propulsion system carrying it toward the edge of the system. Captain Chen, Admiral Kextar called out, his voice hoarse with defeat and something that might have been respect. Will we see you again? Her reply carried clearly across the void. Admiral, you're going to see a lot more of us than you ever expected. The galaxy just got much smaller, and humanity is no longer content to stay in the shadows. The human ship reached the system's edge and simply vanished, not with the energy signature of hyperspace or the gravitational distortion of fold space, but with the quiet finality of something stepping out of existence entirely. Behind it, 15 crews sat in their darkened ships waiting for their systems to return while contemplating a future none of them had imagined. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted in the space of 4 minutes, and the ripple effects would reshape civilization itself. The last echo of humanity's exile had finally reached home, and it carried with it the promise of transformation.